Most married couples struggle to communicate in their marriage, and I want to share with you a quick tip for how you can communicate more clearly in your marriage so you can actually enjoy your marriage more and you can fight less and actually feel the love and enjoy the relationship you always wanted. I mean, nobody gets married thinking, I want to hate the next 20 years of my life. People want to be loved. They want to be understood. They want to be heard. But that doesn't always happen. And I'm reading a book right now by Carl Jung called The Undiscovered Self. And this is only page 7. This is a quick line. And I really connected with it. And I know it's going to be helpful for you. And you're going to really relate to it. So check this out. This is about 2 sentences. He says, he's talking about the undiscovered self, how we think. He says, in this broad belt of unconsciousness, which is immune to conscious criticism and control, he said, we stand defenseless, open to all kinds of influences and psychic infections. Psychic infections. Not a physical infection, like a mental, a thought infection, things that get into our thoughts and into our psyche. He says, as with all dangers, we can guard against the risk of psychic infection only when we know what is attacking us and how, where, and when the attack will come. I'll say that again because he's not just talking about psychological little thoughts. He's talking about warfare. When I read this, I literally thought back to being in Afghanistan, planning and carrying out missions. He said, as with all dangers, we can guard against the risk of psychic infection only when we know what is attacking us and how, where, and when the attack will come. You know, in the marriage battle plan, at marriagebattleplan.com, this is the course where my wife and I show other married couples how to communicate clearly in their marriage using proven military battle strategies. There's a part of the battle plan, there's 8 or 9 points of the battle plan, but one of the key points, one of the key elements is called propaganda. And propaganda is what the enemy uses to get inside your thoughts and to turn you against each other and to create dissension and division. And it's interesting because that is one of the most powerful weapons the enemy has against you. And it's basically, it's the story that you're telling yourself about whatever situation you're going through. A lot of times one spouse is thinking this and the other spouse is thinking that about the same issue. And when they argue, they're doing this. They're missing each other. This one's arguing because they perceive the situation this way. The other person's arguing over here because they perceive it differently. And they're arguing this way. They're not on the same page. And so there's this propaganda. There's the story in this person's head. And there's this other story in this person's head about this one common issue. And they never get resolution because they're never on the same page. What is it? Carl Jung was one of the most brilliant men of the last century. A psychiatrist, a doctor, just a brilliant man. I mean, smart, so smart it was scary. And even he said, as with all dangers, we can guard against the risk of this psychic infection, these stories that are not entirely accurate, that come into our heads that we use or are used against us or our spouse that create division in our homes. He says, as with all dangers, we can guard against the risk of psychic infection only when we know what is attacking us and how, where, and when the attack will come. So look at your marriage. Look at the stuff you fight about. What are the key things you always fight about? There are probably some common things that you can identify. And when you identify what they are, when they usually come about, how they attack, and what happens, you can now start to create a counterinsurgency plan. You can create a counterattack. So when that happens, you can respond differently so you can get a different outcome. And when you and your spouse are both doing this, it's even more effective. If you want more tips on how you can communicate more clearly with your spouse so you can enjoy your marriage more and you can fight less and feel more fulfilled in your marriage, just go to marriagebattleplan.com where my wife and I, Jamie, we teach you exactly how to do that using proven military battle strategies. We've been doing it for over a decade and a half and we can show you how to do it too so your marriage can prosper.